Guys, I must just warn you, it's a bit windy outside. So if you hear the wind, just know that, or if you hear noise in the background, just know it's the wind outside.
Yeah, we have it too. So
I don't know what's happening. Quite strange.
It's the August winds.
Yeah. So I posted that we're gonna go through learning unit 8 to 10. So we're gonna start the project management. I don't think we're gonna finish it today. I've planned it for the next 2 weeks. Then we can also look at that business scorecard question and discuss it. This project management is key learning outcome 3, or key outcome 3 in the study guide. So if you look at your study guide, it's divided in 4 key outcomes, and project management is the 3rd one. So it's important, and the exam is spread according or across all these 4 key outcomes. So last week there was a question as to whether the exam is open book or closed book. It has been confirmed. It's a closed book exam. I'll send out a communication on my UNISA confirming that. So it's not an open book, closed book exam. I'm trying to keep the questions to only 4 questions instead of 5, like I did in the ECP exam. But I think for now I expect 4 questions, and the first question will still be multiple choice, 20 marks. But I think towards the end of the month, once the exam has been moderated, I will send out exam format communication that will assist you guys as to what the format of the exam is and how many questions are going to be in the exam. Okay, so let's start. I see hands. Louisa and Erica. Start with Louisa.
Tebogo, I just wanted to ask, this is a subject that's got written questions and calculation questions. Would you rather advise us to write the paper rather than type it? I'm trying to make up my mind now so that I can start practice when I do questions, what approach I'm going to take. Do you have any take on that?
I missed that part. Do you advise that you rather?
I'm trying to decide whether I should write the exam or type it. But this subject has calculations and obviously written questions. So and with a invigilated app where we have to take photos of our script before we upload it, I'm trying to see what will be the best in this case, because I don't want to have a scenario where I print a few pages and write a few pages.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour exam for 100 marks, so there's not a lot of time. So yeah. If you can type fast, I would advise you to type. If you can't type fast, I would say do what you're comfortable with for most people is writing. Yeah. There's going to be calculations in the exam. I think you get a balance of about 50 between calculations and theory. So that should give you an indication of whether you should write or type.
Okay.
But I think just remember that you only have 2 hours for 100 marks.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Let's start with the balance scorecard question. How did you guys find the question? Sorry, before I do that, Erica, your hand was also up.
Tebogo, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I just wanted to find out if there's any guidance document or focus areas that we need to focus on that you'll provide us for the exams?
There will be a guideline document, but it will not have a focus area. I think what I try to do is, as we go through each and every chapter in the class, I would say just focus on this. This might be a multiple choice question. This might be a case study question. So that's how we've been doing it throughout the classes. So I'm not sure if that helps, but the entire scope will be tested in the exam.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure if that helps you.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, but I think just for the classes that you've missed, Erica, you can either look at the recordings or talk to other people. Then they can share with you what I said might be a case study question and what I said might be a multiple choice or short case study question.
Yes, I'll listen to the recording. I'm sure that EPS thing is going to come in, but it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. So how was the question 5? Anyone wants to comment? So I think before we comment, can you guys see the question paper on the screen?
Yes, Tebogo.
Okay. So let's just read the required part. Guys, do you see in the exam I stress this part? Students must refer to the above scenario in their answers. And this effectively means do not give us generic answers. We will not mark, we will not award marks for generic answers. Okay? So the question required you to prepare a memorandum where you assess the company's performance and you use the Kaplan and Norton's balance scorecard. Okay? So what I did here is I gave you the 4 pillars. I listed the 4 pillars of the balance scorecard model. And the reason being is I did not want to award marks for these pillars. So the mark allocation was more towards the application of facts or of facts provided in the scenario in your answer. So you'll see this even in the final exam. If I ask you a case study questions and I want you to apply it to a certain scenario, I might give you the pillars, for example. Okay. And I also gave you mark allocation to guide you, because what often happens is assessing the company is a very broad and generic question. So if I don't restrict you using marks, you'll find that one person will give me an answer, a 1-page or 2-page answer on internal business processes, whereas it's only 4 marks. So initially I had it as 18 marks. Then the comment was that I must just try and split it to allow you guys to know what each pillar counts for. So in the exam, let these mark allocation guide you. When it's split like this and there's mark allocation, your answer must be confined to the mark allocation. When you feel you've got 4 points that can score you 4 marks or 5 points, you move on to the next pillar. Okay. So let's start with the financial side of it. Anyone wants to comment there? I'm not going to read through the question. We've done that last week where we read through the question and we highlighted certain things. So let's just focus on the answer. Let's start with the financial aspect of it. Louisa?
Tebogo, I worked out the earnings per share, but then I went back to the learning unit, the study guide, And I saw that they comment there that this is the earnings per share is also used in the PE multiple, price earnings multiple, to evaluate performance. And I just read the scenario and I thought, yeah, that makes so much sense to look at how much are they prepared to pay per share for every R1's earnings, and compare it for the 2 years. So I made the assumption that the share price stayed the same because I couldn't get that from the scenario. And I did this, but I shouldn't have done it. So, because I asked you and you said I shouldn't have because it wasn't asked. So
Yeah.
I interpreted the evaluate the performance based on my own thinking and brainstorming. And I missed the boat in the conclusion.
Yeah. The other thing that should guide you, Louise, is the question. The question says prepare memorandum to Mr. Cole. Who's Mr. Cole? Mr. Cole is the CEO of the company. So will the CEO be interested in investing in the company, or will the CEO be interested in the internal performance of the company?
You got me there. He's not an investor.
Not an investor. So you calculating the PE ratio for a potential investor.
Okay. Okay, so my creativity did not pay off because it comes back again to read every little detail of the scenario.
We will not require you to connect the dots like that. If I want the PE ratio for investor, I'll ask you that question.
Okay.
See, I would not expect you to, I would not say, you see, in this question, I said, please evaluate the company performance from the financial perspective. Then in brackets, I said, use earnings per share. Because had I not said use earnings per share, most people would have missed it. So we will guide you. We will not trick you to. What we want is for you to answer the question. Okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
So before I come to you, one last thing, Teresa, the PE ratio is not calculated or is not used to measure performance. It's used to calculate the valuation of the company. How much is this company worth? Not how did this company perform. You must just keep that in mind when you look at it. Tire?
Oh, thank you. Look, I wasn't really sure how to approach this question. I know we touched on it, but then still I wasn't sure. So how I did it was for each and every pillar, I listed from the case study which one goes to which pillar. That's how I did it. So for example, for financial perspective, I compared earnings per share for 2019 and earnings per share of 2019 and see the movement there if the company performs well. And then I didn't conclude for each pillar, I didn't conclude. Then I had my conclusion at the end. That's how I did it.
Yeah, I've noticed that in most of your answers. So if I ask for the assessment of each and every pillar, why is there no conclusion on the pillar?
So come again, I didn't hear you.
And I saw that. Sorry, no, I'm just asking, why don't you guys conclude? Because you assess a pillar and says based on this pillar, the company did well or did not do well. And in most of the questions that I've marked, I did not see that conclusion on each pillar. And just be careful, you guys are losing marks there. So the only one that you guys concluded on was the finance one. This is earnings per share increased compared to last year. And it means the company did well financially. But on the other ones, there were no conclusions. Yeah. That's fine. Then the other thing I've noticed is you guys answer in point form. I'm not sure if you've seen if there's any guideline that has been provided to you with regards to the CIMA requirements. But what CIMA requires is that when they ask you a question, any point, one-line point form answers, they don't give a mark for. So especially when you write to the CEO, when you give him a one-line answer that says, for example, finance staff morale has been boosted, that will not be given a mark. So you need to be more descriptive. You need to write as if you're writing to someone that doesn't know what you're talking about. But that being said, don't go overboard. Don't write 4 lines per point. 2 lines is sufficient. Okay. So I've seen that with most of your answers. Just be careful with it. And did you guys struggle with earnings per share? So had I not said please use earnings per share in your assessment, were you guys going to be able to identify that you need to use EPS to measure to assess performance? Anyone? Yeah. So just make sure, what I was trying to do here is test that you understand why you calculate earnings per share. See, I know that most of you can calculate earnings per share, but I need to understand why you calculate earnings per share. And that's why we included earnings per share in this model, to assess the financial performance of the company. There are other measures that you can use to assess the performance, but our focus in this module is only on earnings per share. Okay. So let's look at I'm not sure if you guys want me to go through the question or you're happy with what we've done so far. Anyone? I think let me just go through one pillar with you guys, and then I can move on from there. Just hold on with me. Just quickly gonna open something. Louisa, your hand is up.
If you maybe can just help me to understand the deduction of the preference shares from the net profit after tax.
Just quickly, okay, I'll touch on it now. Tabitha? Okay. Tabitha, your hand was up. Tabisa? So Tabisa's hand was up. Okay. So let's just start with, so obviously it's a memo. It needs to have an introduction. And let's look at the 4 pillars. So from the financial perspective, we ask for an earnings per share calculation. But you were given information that allows you to compare earnings per share between the 2 years. Because when you calculate earnings per share for 1 year, without comparison to something else, you will not be able to assess the performance of the company. So you either compare it to targets that has been set for the current year, or you can compare to prior year to assess whether the company is improving profitability or not. So in this scenario, you were given information for both the current and the prior year. Sorry, I don't understand Tabisa's point. I was saying you didn't expect us to do calculation. Tabisa, can you just clarify on that, please? Okay. So while we're waiting for Tabisa there, let's just look at the calculation of earnings per share. So earnings per share is earnings over weighted average ordinary shares. So when we calculate earnings, what is our earnings? Which profit do we use? Louisa, and this is talking to your question. Which profit do we use?
A profit attributable to the shareholders.
Which shareholders?
The ordinary shareholders, because that determines the equity.
And why not the preference shareholders?
Is it because the preference shares can be a debt instrument as well, if it's redeemable?
It can be equity. It can be equity, it can be debt, it can either be.
Okay, so if it's equity, why would we then not? There's something to do with the financial cost.
So
the dividend.
So let's go back. Let's go back to what you said. So you take profit after tax. Okay?
Yeah.
Profit after tax is attributable to who? Let's start there.
To the ordinary shareholders. It's how your equity, your capital was utilized to get to that profit.
But your preference shareholders are your equity as well. So your profit after tax, who is it attributable to? So in simple English, the company made a profit of 20 million. Who does this profit belong to?
To all those who made capital available for the operations.
To the different classes of shareholders. So that profit is available to the different classes of shareholders. The earnings per share calculation only looks at the ordinary class of shares. Sorry, the ordinary shares. It only looks at that class of.
Because it equates to the market value of the company. Hello?
Did you lose Tebogo?
I think we lost him.
So we can hear me. Sorry.
We can hear you now, Tebogo.
Yeah.
My apologies. I got
Okay.
disconnected.
So we're trying to figure
Okay.
out why is all the ordinary share capital the only measurement for profit.
For profit.
Why is why?
The ordinary shareholding represents the equity of the company, but I don't know why. I'm trying to get myself to understand, like you say, why only that class of shares? And we're supposed to know it because this is a management accounting function.
Okay, so let me ask this question. The ordinary shares or ordinary shareholders, are they entitled to a dividend every year?
No, not necessarily, because they don't have a preference like the preference shareholders.
Okay. And the preference shares, are they entitled to a dividend every year?
Not necessarily, but they've got the first, if there's money available to distribute, it will go first to them.
The dividend will go first to them.
To the preference shareholders. It depends on what's the dividend policy for the ordinary shareholders.
What is this preference that they get?
I think they paid more, so they get more. It's a more expensive investment.
Yeah. So the preference shares are more or less the same as debt. So in terms of liquidating a company, your debt will be the one will get priority over your equity. So when the company has disposed all their assets and they're saying we're settling a debt, they will first give preference to your debt holders. Okay? Then the second preferential treatment goes to your preference shares. Then lastly, your equity shareholders, or not your equity, your ordinary shareholders.
Ordinary shareholders.
So your ordinary shareholders rank last in terms of claims to the company. Okay? So it's first debt, then preference shares, then ordinary shareholders. So when we calculate earnings per share, we want the performance of the company for the ordinary shareholders who are considered the owners of the company. Remember, debt holders and preference shareholders are not considered owners of the company. They're considered as people that inject funding into the company. And they have to be paid something for that funding. The ordinary shareholders are taking a risk. If there's no money to pay them back for their investment, there's nothing. The company does not even pay them back for their investment. Company pays them a dividend as and when there are enough profits to declare a dividend. Okay. Preference shares, they get a dividend every year if it's a cumulative preference share. If it's not declared in the year, it accumulates. If it's a non-cumulative, it gets declared when there's money, but it gets priority over the ordinary share dividend. Debt, interest is payable every year, irrespective of whether the company has cash or not. The debt holders want their interest. Tire?
All right. I get where I went wrong in terms of the calculation of earnings per share, especially in terms of the weighting of number of ordinary shares. But as for calculation of adjusted earnings, from the case study, I think there's somewhere where they said they have adjusted the profit after tax for preference shares. Why are we still deducting it now? Why are we still deducting the preference dividends?
But that's what we do. That's what we're doing now. and that's Louisa's question. So when we try and calculate earnings per share, we're only interested in, and I'm hoping through this, Tire, I will answer your question. So just park that question for now, and after we've gone through this example, if it's not answered, we can try and address it again.
Okay, all right.
So when we calculate earnings per share, we're interested in earnings relating to the ordinary shareholders, okay? Because our denominator is weighted average ordinary shares. The only shares that we look at when we calculate earnings per share is ordinary shares. We don't look at preference shares in a calculation of weighted average shares. We only look at ordinary shares. So to make apples equal to apple, we can't divide the profit that has a preference dividend element by the weighted ordinary shares. So that's not comparing apples with apples. So we need to adjust our earnings to be aligned to our denominator, which is ordinary shares. So what in our profit after tax has not been deducted, which does not relate to the ordinary shareholders? And that's usually a preference dividend. Then we say we take our profit after tax, and we say from this profit after tax, we're going to deduct the preference dividend, see, to get to our adjusted earnings. And our adjusted earnings is going to be our earnings for earnings per share. So this adjusted earnings is earnings that is attributable to the ordinary shareholders. And we're going to take that earnings attributable to the ordinary shareholders. We're going to divide it by the weighted average ordinary shares, not preference, not anything else. Then secondly, we don't adjust for debt, for example, interest. We don't adjust for interest in a profit after tax because interest is already deducted. So you don't see us saying we're going to adjust this profit after tax by profits that are attributable to debt holders, and those profits are usually interest. But in a profit after tax, interest is already deducted. So that unless the question tells you that in the profit, interest was not accounted for, then you would deduct that interest because it's not attributable to the ordinary shareholders, it's attributable to the debt holders. Okay, do we understand that? Louisa and Tire?
No, I still don't understand because maybe it's a problem of English. You know, when they said to me, when they say to me that, let me read it. When they say to me that preference dividends was accounted for in a group's profit after tax, my understanding is that preference dividends were deducted already. So hence I'm asking, why are we now deducting it? Because they say here.
I understand. I also understood it like that. So I went and added it back.
No, I just left it because if it was taken out, because I understand first before
you're
you
right.
can count any per share, preference dividends must be out. You must first deduct it. So here they tells me that they were accounted for. So I said, okay, if they were accounted for, I take profit as it is for 2019. For 2019, I adjusted for what percentage was there? Is it 40%? That's what I did. So I'm still confused. Why are we now again deducting the dividends?
Just read the question again on that part.
They said the effective interest rate is 13% per year, and the preference dividends were accounted for in the group's profit after tax for 2020 financial year.
Okay, so let's look at this. This is the class we did in July on earnings per share. Okay.
Yes.
I want to bring you here. Can you see the income statement?
Yes, I see it.
So when I tell you that the finance cost has been accounted for in the group's financial statements, what does it mean? That's my profit after tax. Do you see that? Earnings
Yes.
for the year, that's my profit after tax. Where's the finance cost? Is here. Can you see that?
Yes.
So it's accounted for. It means it has been deducted. So it means this earnings, this profit after tax, whatever's remaining does not have a profit attributable to the debt holders.
Yes.
Agree.
Yes.
So when I say the preference dividend has been accounted for, where do you see preference dividend in the profit after tax?
Let me see here.
So where's the preference dividend here?
I don't see it anywhere here. It's too small. Maybe if you can zoom, but I still can't see anything there.
Well, the point is it's not here. Sorry, not
Yes.
here. Yeah, it won't
Yes.
be here. So the preference dividend comes on the statement of changes in equity, where you reduce your accumulated profit with a preference dividend.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So this profit, whether say it's not affected by preference dividend, because all dividends are deducted in the statement of changes in equity. They are under equity. They are not in the income statement.
Okay, just a quick one. So the profit that we use should be the profit that comes from statement of changes in equity, not statement of not financial, statement. I mean income statement.
So the profit that comes from the income statement, is it adjusted for preference dividend?
No.
Yes.
In the statement of equity, it is adjusted, if I understand you correctly.
Yes.
Yes. So let's go back to that question. So the profit that comes from the income statement, is it adjusted for pref dividend?
No.
No.
Is that profit attributable to the ordinary shareholders alone, or is attributable to the ordinary shareholders, to the minority interest, and to the preference dividend, preference
Yes.
shareholders?
To both, to all of them.
To all.
To all. So what
Yes.
are we interested in calculating earnings per share?
Only the ordinary shareholders
understand now.
attributable profit.
Yes.
No, I understand now.
Sorry, let me just. So now, if you look here, that's where you see. Sorry, let me just enlarge it. Sorry, guys. You look at attributable to owners of SASO. So these shareholders, ordinary shareholders, they call them owners of SASO Limited. Do you see that? Then these are the non-controlling, the minority interest in the subsidiary. Remember, we consolidate the subsidiaries, and when they consolidate, there's a portion relating to other controlling, or sorry, other shareholders.
Yes.
This part, it's more accounting. I don't think I want to deal with it in this module. But remember, when you buy, so the example, the high level, is when you buy 100%. Sorry, the company's equity is 100%. You buy 75%. Remember, you consolidate 100 and you take out 25 as a minority interest. Remember that accounting that we used to do when we do consolidation?
Yes.
The 25 is that minority, that non-controlling interest. But for our purposes, I will not test the non-controlling interest. Okay. So the number that we will use for earnings per share is this 4298. Then we adjust it with the preference dividend. Okay. If there are any, but I don't think there are preference dividend, because if there were preference dividend, they wouldn't call it owners of SASO here. They would split 4298 between owners and preference dividend or preference shareholders.
Okay, all right, I see. So maybe if I can ask the last question here. So the dividend is not a finance cost. They don't go to P&L. This I think is an accounting thing, but then they don't go to P&L. They go to changes in equity.
Yes, but accounting. Remember, accounting says if it's a mandatory convertible pref dividend, then it's a debt instrument. So you need to go back to that earnings per share guideline. Remember that guideline that we did in this class on the 22nd? Because there are instances where we will treat preference dividend as debt, as finance costs. So the nature of the preference share will determine whether the pref is interest or not.
Okay.
So just go back to this class on the 22nd, as well as the earnings per share guideline. You see that if it's a mandatory convertible instrument, that preference dividend is not seen as preference dividend, but is seen as a debt instrument. Then the preference dividend is treated the same way as you would treat interest. Okay.
Okay.
So this part is fairly simple, and that's the point that I was making, that we were testing more the principles of earnings per share here than trying to make it more complex. Okay? But you still need to understand those instruments for dilution as well as for EPS calculation. So is there any question on this calculation? Anyone struggled with it? Then there's my conclusion. Let me just try and make this bigger. So I say from an EPS comparison, the financial performance this is how I mark it.
Tebogo, we lost you.
Can you guys hear me now?
We didn't hear you from your comment on EPS, the comparison of the 2 years.
I was just saying you need to conclude here. Tell me how the company performed from a financial perspective. Okay? Tell me how the company, here you can either group these non-financial perspective and conclude on them, or conclude under each one. But I'm interested to know how the company concluded. How the company performed. That's what the CEO is interested in. So if you look at my answer here, the implementation of the call system has streamlined and integrated functions across the business. Okay, this has improved our operating efficiency. That's mundane. Huh? This mundane administrative tasks have been replaced by the system, resulting in staff performing value-added related tasks, e.g., finance supporting the business on key business decisions. You see that? So if you do this, what I've seen in some of your solution is this thing. You give me that. And that's what I was talking about when I say you guys provide one-line generic answers. So according to SEMA, we should not mark this. So does this make sense? Finance supporting the business on key business decisions. Does that statement make sense in isolation? Anyone?
That for me, it alone, the statement doesn't,
So
make
guys,
sense. For me alone, it doesn't make sense. So I think we need to tell how did it improve the quality or the efficiency of our product and services, maybe.
so guys, what I expect from you guys, read your answers. After you write down an answer, just read it and say, does this thing make sense? Will a person reading this understand what I'm trying to say? Then, at the end, that's my conclusion under internal business processes. See. So my assessment, even though it's 4 different pillars, I'm telling a story. I'm telling the CEO a story. See, I started by saying we've improved our operating efficiency. Then I'm talking to both the procurement and the store team are also complementary of the new system, advising that it has improved efficiency and the easing of administrative burden. The administrative burden by the system on members of the team. All this is in the question, guys. All this is in the question. There are, however, teething issues with the system. The sales team for the retail customer is very frustrated with what they refer to as instability of the system. They have not performed so well compared to the sales team for the big customer. Overall, we have performed very well under this area, barring the 2 issues mentioned below. Any comments?
Tebogo, I think I learned a lot from this in terms of how to present the answer, because I took the 4 pillars and then I just put a point beneath every pillar that said this system was installed, and then I made bullet points: positive impact, negative impact. So, and I didn't conclude per pillar. So I think your words to say, tell the story rather of the implications within this pillar, I think that I've learned from this.
And do you see how short it is?
Yeah.
See, I'm referring it back to what I've already discussed. I'm not repeating it because I don't have time to be saying these 2 issues are 1, 2, 3. Then at the end, I conclude overall, the company has performed well in both financial and non-financial. The teething problems on the system has not significantly affected our performance. See, that's a 1 mark. That overall conclusion.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can also agree as well that I have learned a lot from this this session. But I just want to ask, in terms of the financial perspective, my calculations were wrong, and then I based, I told a story based on that wrong calculation. Let's say maybe for me, for 2020, earnings per share decreased, and then I made a conclusion based on that.
So what I did, when I marked the calculation, you see the marks are, if you show your calculation, I'll follow your calculation. So if your preference dividend is wrong, so let's say your profit is right, I'll give you your profit. Then your preference dividend is incorrect. Then your shares, you'll get, if your shares are correct, you'll get your mark. Okay, so far you were wrong here. You only lost that mark. Everything else is correct because you detailed your calculation. Then if this is a decrease, I look at this, then I see how you conclude based on your calculation, and I'll give you a mark if your conclusion is aligned to this.
Okay.
So always, and give calculation. So even if you get it wrong, show your calculation so that I can follow your story. Remember, calculations most often are done by the system. So what I need to see in your solution is, does this person understand the principle? If that is wrong, these are still right. Your conclusion will still be correct based on the number that you've calculated.
So Tebogo, you must just not contradict yourself. If it's improvement based on your figures, you will talk to that. If it's deterioration, you will talk to that based on your figures. You must just not contradict yourself.
That's correct, yes. Or if it's an improvement, then you say it's not an improvement. When you contradict yourself, the question that comes to the market's mind is, does Louisa understand the principle? Because the calculation said it's an increase, but she's concluding that the company did not perform well financially. So the principle means, well, when I look at the principle, I question whether you understood the principle or not. Okay. So just redo that question, mark yourself. Do you see my answer? There's no 1-line answers. This one is the shortest. What you guys, so what I've seen is up to the finance are relieved of the administrative function. Okay? That won't be a mark. See, and it's painful to mark the exam when students fail because of writing like this. You see, you are torn between giving a mark and not giving a mark. But you know, in terms of the CIMA guideline, that can't be a mark. See, and students fail because of this. They don't fail because of they don't know the information. They fail because of this. So practice, guys, practice. I think you'll get there. Louisa?
Tebogo, I saw procurement and stores as a customer, thinking in terms of stakeholders. Can you just maybe speak to that?
As the internal customer or external customer?
Well, obviously they use the system, I figured, and it caused them to be more satisfied. So based on them using it, I saw them as a stakeholder, an internal customer then, like you would say.
Yeah, so from our business scorecard, are we looking at customers from internal perspective or customer from external perspective?
External.
See,
because
so
it's a performance measurement for the company. So I follow now what you say.
So we're
It's
looking at
not
a
strength and weakness analysis. It's a performance analysis.
it does look at some areas. You classify them as strengths and weaknesses, but this category that looks at customer relations, it's more focusing on external customer.
Okay, noted.
Because the question is, when you say procurement and stores are a customer, my question to you is, who are they a customer?
Well, if you do transfer pricing, maybe they are.
No, but in this scenario, you drafting a memo for the CEO.
Yeah.
So you say procurement and stores. So the management accountant is drafting a memo for the CEO and say procurement and stores are a customer. And the CEO is saying, but who are they? Whose customers are they?
Yeah,
What will you answer? So if it was the IT team drafting this memo, looking at the performance of the function, then you can defend why you would classify them as customer.
Yeah, and in a sense, I don't want to spend too much time, but in a sense that procurement deals with suppliers from the outside. Isn't there a link?
But they are still internal. What procurement does is they make sure that there's materials when you need them for production. They make sure that there's stationery when you need them for administrative function.
So the procurement system or our system would not necessarily speak to the supplier system. There's not an interface or something because
it might be, they might be placing orders on the supplier system.
Then they would be our customer.
Who, the supplier or the procurement?
The supplier.
Not the procurement.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think I've got this.
But the supplier are not your customer. They are your stakeholders because they don't buy from you. You buy from them.
I also make the same mistake as Louise there, because when they say stakeholders, I just put it under customer perspective. But then it is now clear that suppliers are suppliers. Customer perspective speaks just to customers, not.
So you must speak to the money-making portion of performance. What drives your profit in this sense?
Yes. Who do you sell to?
Yeah.
Those are your customers. Okay, I think guys, let's just move on to Tabisa, last question. Then let's start on project management. I think there's something wrong with Tabisa's mic. Tabisa, can you please type in the chat? Okay, guys, let's look at project management. But I wanna continue with this approach of looking at case study type of scenarios when we do our theoretical classes. So we've discussed last week's assignment. We're going to look at the concept of project management. We're going to look at the project management process areas. We're going to look at it from a case study perspective, and we're going to discuss the question
Have we lost the Bohu?
I'm back, sorry. Where did you guys lose me?
Last when you said what we're gonna look, when you point us to the objectives.
Okay, so these are the objectives for today. We've already done the first one. We're going to look at the concept of project management as well as the project management process areas, but we're going to look at them from a case study scenario type of, or we're going to do it through a case study type of setup. Then next week, we're going to look at the project management techniques, specific focus on the critical path analysis that you guys struggle with, the Prince2 and the PMBOK method. So that's what we're gonna focus on. Project leadership, which is learning unit 10. I'm gonna touch on it at a very, very high level next week. But I think over the next 2 weeks, the focus is on the project management, concepts of project management and project management tools and techniques. Okay. Is there anything else that you guys want me to specifically cover under this key outcome?
Okay, I have a question, but it's not with regard to project management. Remember last week you said you'll give us a assignment on chapter 7. And then I don't think I have received it. If you have sent it, I haven't received it or I haven't seen it. So that maybe we can also touch on chapter 7 and see how type of question that can come out of that chapter.
I did that question and I didn't share it because you guys already had what do you call it?
Business scorecard.
The balance scorecard. So I don't want to give you a lot of homework. So this was the under recovery. I just want to see which one. But there's a question I can share it with you. Let me just quickly try and find it. I just want to see what I was asking. So this was the question. It was quite a lengthy question. As you can see, it was a 34-mark question. And that's why I did not share it with you guys. So it looked at the effectiveness of the finance team, the stages of team development, approaches to manage conflict, and the cohesiveness of the team. But I can share it with you guys, but it's a very long question.
Yes. I think you should share it with us. We can attempt it on our own and then see if we understand or probably if we have also the answers to the memorandum, we can just do it on ourselves in the interest of time. Maybe.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But you're gonna have homework for this weekend.
But Tebogo, if you can give it to us, we can do it we can break it up in smaller portions, do our other homework, but just as we have time, maybe set a little bit of time aside for that, even if we just do half of it a day, so that we move, because I think we need practice in this.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. I'll share it. I'll share it. Let's go through project management. I think let's start by looking at this scenario. HPER Limited is a listed mining
Have we lost the Bochum?
Hello?
Tebogo, we are losing you. Hello?
Yeah, I think we lost him.
I think we'll just give him a chance.
Can you guys hear me?
You come and go.
This internet of mine, I don't know what's happening with it.
I don't know if it's the wind, but
Because I try and connect on my phone.
I think it's because I also struggled, so I had to move from where I was to another, closer to the router.
Guys, can you give me 2 minutes? I just want to connect to another router.
no problem.
Sorry about that. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm connected to another router, so let's hope this one is stable. Okay. So let's look at this scenario. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
So the company is a listed mining company in the Northwest. It employs 400 employees who are mostly based 150k away from the mine. The board has always been worried about the distance that the staff travel and the number of accidents that are happening when staff commutes to work. The company's output has over the last few years dropped due to a high level of absenteeism. The board, after conducting a comprehensive analysis of the absenteeism, has approved a plan for the company to upgrade the mining town and to provide housing to their employees closer to the mine. The salient features of the plan are as follows. The company will partner with government to bring people closer to the mine by providing affordable housing in a town near the mine. This will eliminate the need for employees to travel at least 300 kilometers a day. The project will commence in 2021 and expected to conclude in 2025. 350 houses will be built and sold to employees at a subsidized price. The project will commence in different phases, and it lists the phases. Phase 1 is the upgrade of the infrastructure. Phase 2, you build 100 houses, and so forth and so forth. A budget of 30 million has been made available for the first phase by the company. The company has applied for a government grant to partly finance phase 1 of the project. Government has approved the process and is in the process of allocating funds for their required infrastructure. The company is also in the process of preparing a detailed budget for phase 2 or phase 2 to 4. Okay. So looking at this scenario, as a management accountant in a company, how would you manage this? Before we start, let me not start by saying, how would you manage this? Is this a project? Question 1. Anyone? Is this a project?
Yes, it's a project.
Why, Velile?
Because it's not a day-to-day activity of the company.
Okay. Correct. Safira?
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Hi, Safira.
Yes, I think it's a project because of a project run within a specific time. It's not something that will run through the company years or so, but it's for a specific period of time, and then that's it.
Okay. Louisa?
I agree. There's clear objectives for it. And it's not business as usual, like somebody else said.
Okay. So now, let me change this question. I think I always forget 472. I always forget the name. 472, you had your name up.
Yes, I was saying it's a project because there is a start and the end.
Okay, no, that's fine. So let's change that now. Let's make it more structured. Using the characteristics of a project, would you define this housing plan as a project? How would you answer the question? Must I repeat the question, or are you guys clear?
You can repeat the question.
Using the characteristics of a project, would you define this housing plan as a project or not? And I'm saying to you, it's 8 marks. How would you approach that question? Louisa?
Okay. Normally the characteristics of a project in terms of a timeline, it would be several years. So if you say it's only 8 months,
Sorry, 8 marks, not 8 months. Sorry.
Oh, I heard 8 months. Well,
No,
it's various phases. It's over several years. 2023, I see that now. 24, 25. Then yes.
Yeah? Is that your answer?
Yes, and there's also special resources allocated to that. A budget of 30 million has been made available for the first phase of the company. So it's a dedicated amount for a part of the project.
Yeah. Thank you. Tire?
Yes, I'll also say it is a project because it meets many of characteristics of a project. like for the two has been given already, but the other one is that it has a unique undertaking to achieve a certain objective, which is the objective is to bring the the mine workers closer to the mine. So yeah, for me, I can say it is a project.
Okay. Then Safira?
I think yes, it does meet the characteristics of a project because of number one, like it meet the lifespan. Number two, I believe it's unique from the daily progging operation. It's unique. Number two. Number three, I think it also meet what do you call the characteristics because of what can I say? I think yeah, that's all. Bye bye.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So guys, I've written down your answers. Either your hand is up again.
I think also that highlighted word plan should maybe be an indication as well that it's a project.
Sorry, that highlighted word is a mistake, Louisa.
We are looking for clues, Tebogo, clues, I'm telling
It's a
you.
mistake. It's a mistake.
But,
Okay.
but I think so I think
So-
you've answered it. Okay.
Yesterday, before I answer?
I was saying to you, Lucy, yes, we need clues, but I think we have answered many of this. It's up to you to mark us if we have really answered it. Because also the last one that I think we didn't mention is that it also has stakeholders. So with that, I think it will meet most of them then of characteristics of a project.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. So the point I'm trying to make with asking this question or taking this approach in dealing with this chapter, the way you answered me now is the way you're going to answer me in the exam. And the way you answered me is what I've been trying to sort of get you to move away from. So let's try again. Using the characteristics of a project, would you define this as a project or not? And the answer is 8 marks. How would you approach this? Or what will your answer be? Give me your framework. Because I've been punting framework. Give me your framework. Safira?
Oh, I think now I have it clouded what you want. I'll start with I'll okay, the format will be like this. I'll write the characteristics of a project. Then number one, I'll be having a lifespan. Then under lifespan, I will explain that when this project will start and when this project will end by quoting the phase one, it will be on 2022, phase two, 2023, etc., etc. Then I move to number two. I had someone speaking about objective.
Sorry, Safira, just on that one. So you're gonna, on the lifespan, you're gonna rewrite phase 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, I'm not gonna rewrite. I'm saying I'll write about the lifespan, the project that.
What will you write about the lifespan?
Okay, let me structure the question.
Write a sentence. Put a
Okay.
sentence about the lifespan in the comment box. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay. And Lisa?
I don't have it ready, Tebogo, but I would think we will start with the objective, the specific objective, and then from there on build it.
But what's the plan? So let me guide you. If you have the study guide, the characteristics are on page 9 of the second study guide, 502. If you have the textbook,
It's page 320, I think.
Page 320, yeah. Safira, are you still writing that answer, bro?
Yes, yes, I'm still busy structuring it in the correct way, then I'll post it in a sec.
Just on the timeline, the one that speaks to the timeline. Okay. So guys, so now take me, you guys understand that such a simple question can make you lose marks because you don't know how to answer it, but yet you know the information. So now you've got this, assuming you've studied this theory. So answer my question. How would you answer? Yes, 472. Uh, 472, you can go ahead. Is it Mapula or Mule? Okay. Anyone else?
Okay. For me, how I will answer this question is that I will tell first that it is different from a day-to-day business of the mining operation. How is it different? Then I will tell that story that this is not a normal business of the mining. And I will move to a second point, which is the project is unique. And then tell why am I saying it's unique. That's my first point. The other one is to achieve a specific objective. What is the objective of the project? And then define the beginning to the end of the project, that it will start at this year and it will end at this particular year. And then also the project have stakeholders, and then I will name the stakeholders. I wouldn't necessarily name their role into this project, but then I will name them. Yeah. And then also, yes, that's how I'm going to approach it.
Yeah. Someone else? Sorry, there's a hand up from Portugal.
Hello.
Is it Mapula or Mule? I think there's something wrong with your mind. Siri, go for it. Your hand is still up.
Hello. I believe I will start with introduction. After that, you draft a work plan where there will be different stakeholders with their responsibility and their timeline according to the looking at a first phase and the end conclusions, and again including the budget.
Okay, I think that's going too detailed in it. Okay, Erika, let's hear you.
Okay, when I looked at the characteristics, the first thing that was stated was the beginning and the end date. So I think that's where your starting phase should be. Just to say that it will commence 21, conclude 25, and it would consist of 4 phases. I think that's where I would start by answering the question. Thank you.
Okay. Last one, Louisa.
Tebogo, that sentence, the salient features of the plan are as follows. This is the characteristics of the objective or the plan then. And I think we should match that to the key characteristics of the project. So we take the plan's characteristics and we match it up with the project's characteristics.
Okay. So let me take the first one and just and we'll go through the rest of them and just tell you how I would answer. Okay, the first characteristic in the study guide says it often takes several years to complete a project, and it will typically consist of various shorter stages of small tasks. Okay, then I would say the housing plan. The housing plan is scheduled to commence in 2020 and conclude in 2025, and it will be developed in 4 different phases. Okay. So the housing plan is scheduled to commence in 2021 and will conclude in 2025 and will be developed in 4 different phases, phase 1 to 4. So what's wrong with that answer when it addresses number 1? Sorry, Safira, your hand was up before my question.
I was like, I posted my answer.
Okay, we'll look at it. Louisa?
I think the problem is that this scenario only speaks to the first phase because there's only money for phase 1.
But the project is it will go to phase 1 to phase 4. So why would you do phase 1 and not continue with the other one?
Won't it be a project within a project?
But that's what a project is. It has smaller tasks.
Shorter stages or smaller tasks.
Yes. Okay.
I think, well, if I must think what's the problem, maybe that's not the starting point. The starting point should be what do we set out to do? What is the objectives of the project? I think one should rather start there.
But why are you moving away from the question? The question says using the key characteristics of the project, define whether this will qualify as a project or not. Using the key characteristics, I'm giving you a framework, which is the key characteristics.
Yes, they do.
So
I want you to say that in 8 months.
So do we say the key characteristics of a project is A, B, C, D, E, F, based on the scenario presented, and then we fill in the A, B, C, D from the scenario?
No. Because you're not going to
me alone, I don't think
Sorry, Tire, I just want to give Louise an answer there.
No, please help me because I'm struggling.
Yes. You will not finish that. Because you're going to write the characteristics, then apply them afterwards. The question wants application. Okay. Tire?
yes, I just wanted to also jump in there that I wouldn't approach it the way Louisa wanted to approach it, and then you help her that why is it not necessary to list the characteristics and elaborate afterwards? Because I think that is what you have always said even before with the last week class. So, but I just want to check with the one of stakeholders. Would you go and talk to their roles as well into your answer with 8 marks, or just list them?
No, you don't need to list stakeholders. The question didn't ask you to list stakeholders.
Yeah, but on the textbook, stakeholders are also part of characteristics. The project will also have stakeholders. So to elaborate under that characteristics, do we just list them, or we just say it does have characteristics, e.g. it has government, it has stuff like that?
So just give me that, give me that characteristics, apply that characteristics to the situation.
Okay, I'll say the project will also have characteristics. It will also have stakeholders. So for this project, stakeholders are the mine, yes, and the mine workers, government will also be part of my stakeholders. So that is how I'm going to list them. I'm not going to say the mine because they are sponsors, government, they do this, mine workers, they end up beneficiary.
That's fine. You can do that, but you've already concluded. You started by saying a project will have stakeholders. So you've already concluded that it's a project.
Okay.
Just be careful how you work.
Hello, Debo. Then what is the right approach in these questions?
We'll come to it. We'll come to it. Safira, let's look at your answer. Lifespan, company will partner with government to provide housing for employees. The project will commence from 2021 till 2025. I think I would struggle to give you a mark there, Safira, because you just say lifespan, and you just tell me what the lifespan is. But what is a project? What is that characteristics I'm looking for in terms of years? You see, the characteristic says it often takes several years. So I want you to link the statement to your answer. And an example would be, this project will take several years to complete. It will start in 2020 to 2025. Or this plan. Therefore, I believe that your conclusion at the end will be, because of that, I believe that this plan will qualify as a project. Okay. Safira?
So it means after every characteristics, after you explain whether it is qualified for project or not, you need to state, like you're saying, like the example that you gave, and then I need to conclude to say, yes, it qualifies to be a project, or I'll do the conclusion at the end after all the characteristics are mentioned.
You do the conclusion at the end, because all of them will point to the fact that it's a project. Okay. Louisa? And I think it was Louisa, then Erica, then 472 as well.
Sorry, no, Tebogo, my hand, I was just stretching. I think I accidentally left it off.
Erica?
Tebogo, when I was looking at the characteristics, I see they don't mention anything but about budget. But shouldn't your funding be confirmed first before before you start with a project or an assignment?
It depends. So when you go through the stages of the project, when do you confirm your funding?
The beginning phase, isn't it?
In the project initiation. So before you do your project plan, you will have to do it, but it doesn't mean you abandon it. So you can say, we're going to take on this project, then let's see how much it's going to cost it. And out of the 10 projects that we've identified, we can only go with 4 because we can only afford this one. These 4, and the rest we can them, or we postpone them till later.
Yes. Okay, then I understand. Yeah, but then what you mentioned earlier, then I don't see anything wrong with how if we mention the start and end date and then the phases, unless I'm missing something. I don't know.
That's 8 marks, Erica. I want you to get the 8 marks.
So is that only the first one? So you want us to give everything?
If you have to answer, convince the reader that you have taken the scenario and applied the characteristics of the project to the scenario, and the outcome is that you believe that this is a project.
Okay.
And that's what I'm asking for. So in simple terms, tell the reader that I know what the characteristics of the project is. If I apply them to the scenario, this is my solution. This is a project or it's not a project. Tabitha? Tabitha, your hand is up. Noziko?
Good day, good afternoon. I just want to point out, maybe I'm just picking up something as Erica was saying. It's the characteristics say nothing about the budget, but it does say, look at the study guide, that it requires project resources. So is the budget not part of a resource that needs to be managed, which is limited?
It doesn't define a project, so you don't need to have a budget before you can classify something. It doesn't characterize a project. So once you start diving into what the merits of that project, once you start doing the feasibility and everything else, that's when you'll start preparing the budget.
Okay, but what resources are looked here? Is it only the people? Is it only people that these characteristics is referring to when it says
it will
resources?
require money, obviously, but it doesn't mean we know how much it's going to cost us. It doesn't mean we've quantified the money that will be required. So if you look here, building phase 2 will require money. Phase 3 will require money. We know that it will require resources, but we don't know at this stage. We don't know how much it's going to cost us. Does that answer your question?
Yes, because for now we've just been told about the budget for the first phase. Yeah, I think.
So when you start doing your project, going through your stages of the project, the management process areas or the project life cycle, that's when you start questioning those things.
Okay.
Tebogo, I put in the comment in the chat my introduction to the question. I said, based on the scenario presented, the project can be identified as the salient features of the plan reflects the characteristics of a project. That's my starting point. Will that be good?
It creates an appetite to read more.
Okay, that's my introduction. Now I'm still thinking further. Is this what you aim us to give you? Because it seems like we don't know what you want from us.
So what I'm finding with you guys is that you are so informal and you are so what do you call it? Your answers are too summarized. Okay? And on a long question, it will disadvantage you. In a formal exam, it will also disadvantage you. Yeah. So the way you started it, Safira, the way Louisa started this question, you can start it that way. So it says, guys, here are the characteristics. So let's think about it. Here are the characteristics. Okay? let me try and rephrase this question. Is Teboho a good lecturer or not? Here are the characteristics of a good lecturer. Using the characteristics of a good lecturer, is Teboho a good lecturer or not? You're gonna say no, he's not, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or yes, he is, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But when you answer that, you're gonna apply what I do to the characteristics. And that's what I'm asking you to do this question. Somehow, when it becomes, when it's in a formalized language and it's related to this module, we often don't think like it that way. We try to take a shortcut. If I ask you, am I a good lecturer? I'm going to say, here are the characteristics of a good lecturer. Okay? You are a good lecturer or you are not a good lecturer because you don't give us homework. Your homework is too long. You don't mark us on time. Okay? And that's what I want you guys to do.
Isn't that we are concluding before we can even elaborate on characteristics? I was thinking we should talk to characteristics and conclude after. So if I say yes, Teboho is a good lecture because 1, 2, 3, 4. I've already concluded.
But you can conclude at the top. You can say he's a good lecturer or he's not a good lecturer, but back your answer. You see, or you can say to be a Teboho does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and based on this, he's not a good lecturer. Either way,
okay,
back it up. Whichever way you start, just back up your answer. See? So you guys start right in the middle and say, this project lasts till 2025. Then you leave it there.
So we should start with the company will partner with government to bring people closer to the mine by providing affordable housing in a town near the mine. So that would speak to the stakeholders. The government will be a stakeholder.
No, but what does that statement do to my question? Is this so the question is this a project or not? Using the characteristics.
By identifying the no, I don't know.
So you started by saying, so let's build on your first line. Based on the scenario presented, a project can be identified as a silent feature of the plan reflect the characteristics of the project as demonstrated below. Number one, the housing plan will take several years to complete. It will start in 2021 and be completed in 2025. Number two, it will be developed in different phases, and thus it will be developed in different phases, phase 1 to phase 4.
Which is characteristics of a project.
I'm not. I don't use that way because if you use that, you're gonna repeat it every line you apply. Yeah. So it's gonna be developed in 4 phases, and each phase will have a different deliverable. So that talks to the shortest. It will have each phase will have a different deliverable, and each deliverable will be measured annually. So it talks to the shorter stage, talks to the smaller task. Yeah, it starts on this day and it ends on this day. This project will require money. It will require money from the company and also from government, and it will require internal resources from the company. Sorry, it will require internal resources, okay, to manage and to build these houses. It will also have stakeholders, which are, example, miners, government, and the employees, okay, who are interested in the success of this project. See, so do you see that I'm telling a story? I'm answering the question. Yes, Lisa?
If you get this question now in the exam and you take a blank piece of paper, you put a circle in the middle and you write characteristics of a project in the middle, and you identify, you know, the characteristics around that. You make like a plan on a page. So around it, you write each characteristics, then you go back to the scenario and you dot down the story under each characteristics, and then you summarize it in a story. Is that what you want us to do?
That's it. That's planning. You plan, you have a framework, then you apply the scenario to the framework. That's
Okay,
what I want.
so it will be best to make a map for yourself in front of you. And then you have the framework, and then you put the scenario next to it, and line, sentence by sentence, you match it up to your characteristic.
Yeah.
And then you must just get flow to it and see how the different characteristics interact with each other.
And when the characteristic is not there, don't look for it. Move on.
Okay.
Move on. Then you conclude. You've answered my question. And that's why I keep saying have a framework. Have a framework.
So Tebogo, if you do it in point format and then you lose marks in that way, must there be a story or flow of information?
You can do it in point format, Erica, but not short point. Remember that back to the example that we did that says finance will have more time.
Yes.
You see, when you say finance will have more time, you will not get a mark.
I understand, yeah.
So it can still be in bullet point form, but your bullet points must be descriptive.
So the person who read it must see the buildings go up and the money goes out, and he must see the picture in detail.
So I must know that Louisa knows what the project is. Okay. So
actually, the scenario is telling you what a project is. You can actually conclude from the content of the scenario what is the characteristics of a project if you don't know.
You don't know, and that's what I want. If you know, it's even better.
Yeah.
Because if you know them, you have a framework.
Obviously, that's the first prize, but should it happen that it's that little piece of theory that you did not study or can't remember, then the scenario, you must carefully look at it and ask, what is it telling me in terms of a characteristic of a project? So you'll hit some and you'll miss some, but...
You know, what you're saying is so important. We complicate things. We've got so much knowledge because most of our lives, we manage them as projects. Certain things in our lives are project to us. And when we start questioning you what a project is, you forget that the way you manage your studies, you manage them as a project. The way you manage other things in your life, you manage them as a project. But when you study project management, when you study anything in this module, you close your mind to what you do in your real life. See, what I try to do is my scenario have to be real life scenario. You have to put yourself in this scenario. And if you try and relate what you're studying to your day-to-day, this module is going to be so much easier. So much easier. I think all of you are going to get distinction. Yeah. So, you see how much time we spend on the characteristics. And if you were studying this alone, We would have studied this section in 10 minutes. The issue is not whether you know them or not. The issue is, are you able to apply what you studied to the scenario? And the answer is no. And you need to practice. You need to practice. You need to start thinking like that. Then there's a project from the, we know what the characteristics of the project is. Then we start with project management. What is project management? Why do we manage projects? In simple English, what is project management? So applying, so let's come back to the scenario. You've got the scenario and you telling the CFO that we need to do project management on this scenario. What are you saying to the CEO? Louisa, your hand is up.
I think it's we identify where we want to go with something, and we put a plan down to say this is how we're going to get there.
So what is project management? Are you saying project management is where we want to go and the plan we want to follow to get there?
I think project management is a process.
Of doing what?
Of getting to a certain envisioned end that is, like everybody else said, not part of business as usual, which will have a specific return for the company.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you that question. Forget about what you've read in the textbook. Don't use the textbook. What is project management? What are you trying to do?
I want to manage, I want to do something, but I want to manage it so that I can track, that I can measure it to get where I want to be.
Exactly. So that's the answer that I want. See, so you try and pollute your understanding by using terms in the textbook, you end up not answering the question. See, and that's what happens to students. I don't understand. Project management is you manage the work that is being performed in this housing plan to get to where we want to get to. Do you see, Louisa, do you see the difference in your two answers?
Yes, I think so. Whatever we read in the textbook, we must have a little application discussion with ourselves in terms of something we can relate to.
And do not forget, guys, what you're learning in the textbook is building on something that you already know. You guys take whatever you've learned, whatever you experienced throughout your life, and you discard. Manage a team to get a result. It's as simple as that. Yeah, as simple as that. Safira, your hand was up. Thank you. Okay. But guys, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Straight to the point. Tell me your understanding. So now let's talk about project constraints in relation to this example. And I'm going to ask you what would be project constraint in this scenario. But before, because I know you're going to give me a textbook answers, let me read you what's in the text, what's in the study guide. Most projects will have limited resources that need to be managed. This includes time, money, and quality. Okay. So what do we mean by project constraint in relation to this scenario? Anyone?
Sorry, they will repeat your question again.
So what do we mean by project constraint in relation to this scenario that I've given you? Louisa?
Okay, I see. In terms of the cost, we only address the scenario, only address the first phase. We see that we have 30 million, and the company so the company has 30 million, and we have applied for a government grant to partly finance it. So we've got our money, we've got the government's money, and we're restricted to phase 1.
Yeah. And what about time and quality?
Okay, the government has approved the proposal and is in the process of allocating funds for the required infrastructure. So we are dependent on them. There's a timeline for them to apportion their grant to us. So there, if it takes long, if we don't get the funding in time, it will impact the project negatively.
Yeah.
So it could be a time constraint.
Yeah.
Quality, there should be certain standards. If the government is a partner in this, there's building standards that must be adhered to. I don't see anything of that. It said affordable housing, so it won't be. It will be a low budget, I would presume, housing.
Remember, low budget doesn't mean low quality.
Yeah, so that will speak to the monetary portion of it. But I mean, surely government, there's housing standards for if you erect any building, a minimum requirement that must be adhered to. That will speak to quality. But I don't see if they say anything of that.
Yeah. So just write down your answer. 4 months in a comment box. Write down your answer. 4 months in your comment box. I want to see something. Safira?
Okay, can I try to answer?
Yes, and I think there was another hand, 472, can also answer after Safira.
Okay. Okay, can I start?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. For project constraint, based on the hyper scenario, we have 300 million budget that is limited to 350 house. Let me start again. Let me read it, Bill. Okay. According to the project constraint, we have 30 million that needs to cover 350 house resources. Therefore, we need the quality that will be able to cover phase 1 houses and phase 2 and phase 3. That will be quality. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I lost it. Sorry.
Yeah. You know why? You know why you're struggling. You did not plan your answer. And what will happen in the exam, Safira, is you will write, then cancel, then write again, and maybe cancel.
Okay. So okay, let me write it down, then I'll get back to you.
Put it in the comment box. Let's see. Those imposed time constraint phase 1 need to be concluded in 2020. Okay. The other one. What about the other phases? Those two. And what about quality and cost? Then Sierra says the constraint are the number of houses to be completed per annum. Okay, and that's the time. What about the other constraint? Tabitha said affects the success or failure of the project. Tabitha, that's generic. And apply the constraint to the project. So that's more of the introduction statement that you have there. Okay, Sierra said the cost of 30 million needs to achieve 350 houses in the town and upgrade the infrastructure within 4 phases in order to achieve the objective of reducing absenteeism. That's also focusing on costs here, and it's only focusing on the 30 million cost is not only the money that has been allocated for the entire project. It has only been allocated for year 1. So there's still money coming from government. There's still a budget that's being prepared for phase 2 and 4 by the company. Okay, Louisa?
Sorry, is my hand still up? But sorry, apologies, Tebogo. I didn't mean to put my hand up, but what my eye caught now as well is that the houses will be built and sold to employees at a subsidized price. So subsidized price tell me they will have to come in at a certain cost margin.
Oh, at a break even.
Sorry?
Or
No, they won't break even because part of their profits will have to carry the cost.
But there's government involved as well.
Is that where the government grant comes in?
I don't know.
You see, that's why it's to have a plan on a page. You write down cost constraints. You write down time, quality, and cost of project constraints. And you write down time, quality, and cost. And then you have to look now at everything. Where does it fit in?
So let me attempt this question for you guys, and tell me. I think we're running out of time, and tell me whether it makes sense or not. Yeah. So my answer would be a project of this nature would have will have the time cost and quality constraint. In terms of the time constraint, the houses have to be built within the allocated annual deadlines. Then in terms of quality, the houses that are to be built had to comply to a certain building standard to ensure the safety of the employees. Then in terms of the cost, the funding available for the project is limited to what the company can afford and also what the government is willing to contribute. So the success of the project is limited by both the constraint, time, and cost. So that's a 4-mark answer, high level. So what's
and time in terms of receiving the government it says government has approved the proposal and is in the process of allocating funds for the required infrastructure. The company is also in the process of preparing a detailed budget. Okay, but the government allocation fund, allocating of funds, will you link a time constraint to that or not necessarily? Because it's, or am I reading too much in this scenario?
So let me go back to what constraints are. Constraints are anything that can prevent the constraints are anything that can prevent the company from achieving its objective. What are those? Is there time constraint here?
Well, yes, because if that funding is not allocated timeously in terms of the dates for conclusion of the project, it will be a constraint.
Okay, but is the project dependent on government funding?
Well, that partnered with government, so government is a stakeholder.
Okay, so
their actions will impact the project.
Okay, so just on the timing, what will your answer be? You heard it, Louisa.
Sorry?
You heard it. So I'm asking, based on the timing, what will your answer be?
That it could be a constraint. It could be a time constraint if government do not allocate funds on time to meet the stipulated
So the Sierra says government needs to pay in time. So what happens if government does not pay on time?
Then obviously the project is going to take longer and it's going to cost more. Not necessarily, but it could cost more.
So there's a time constraint.
I think yes, because of if it prolongs, when it comes to paying the laborers, it can add to the, yeah, sorry.
No. I just finish that stuff here. I think you're on the right track. Where's Safira?
Yeah.
I think what, sorry? Yeah. The correlation between time and money is negative or positive. So the one can push the other one. Is that what you're referring to, Shiboku?
So here's my question to you guys. Why do you think the company said, I want to build 100 houses in 2023? Why are they putting themselves under pressure to build 100 houses in 2023?
Because they've got a problem to solve in terms of absenteeism.
Yes. So what's creating the time constraint?
A shortage of money.
Shortage of money. So if government doesn't pay them on time, what will happen?
It will take longer.
And when it takes longer, what happens?
Then they have the absenteeism problem is not solved.
They're not solving the problem.
So they don't meet the set objective for the project.
Yes. Or if government doesn't pay them, they can decide this is a problem. We're gonna pay for it ourselves, depending on what happens during the cost benefit analysis. So if it costs them more if the absenteeism costs them more, they might decide to cough up this money and build the houses. based on what the outcome of the feasibility is. Okay. So now let's go to the quality. Okay. What do we need in terms of quality?
Minimum standards must be met.
For what?
According to governments or according to law, the minimum standards to ensure the safety of the people who live in the house must be met. Non-negotiable.
So minimum standard for what? I'm still struggling.
Minimum quality standards for the houses to be erected must.
See, when I say you need to be specific. Safira, your hand is up.
I think Louisa covered what I wanted to say. Yes, I think there should be standard in place about the quality of the house that they are building. They should have a structure, because if they are building at the lower or they compromise the quality, it's still gonna hit back to the company after a certain period.
Okay, so now we know that we want to build quality houses for these employees. Okay, so what is our constraint in terms of quality? What's preventing us from building quality houses for the employee?
Not sufficient funding.
So in terms of quality constraint, what is the quality constraint here? So we are constrained in terms of the quality that we can build for the employee. You understand where the quality constraint comes from? So the product that we offer our employee, the quality is restrained because of our affordability. And maybe because we're pushing 350 houses in 3 years, that can also contribute to the quality. So now let's go to our favorite one, the cost. What is the constraint there?
The subsidization.
Yeah. We need a subsidization because of what? Why do we need it?
Just say again, Tebogo.
Why do we need this project to be subsidized?
Because the people purchasing the houses don't have enough disposable income to afford a house at full price.
Yeah. Does the company have money to afford this project?
They don't have enough to subsidize, so they're looking to the government to step in.
So what is the cost constraint there?
Is it the funding for year 2 to 4? I mean, phase 2 to 4?
The funding of the entire project, even year 1, the 30 million, the question doesn't tell you that 30 million is enough or not. If you upgrade infrastructure of the town, I mean, you're looking at roads, you're looking at water, you're looking at electricity. See, will 30 million cover that upgrade?
It's only for the houses.
But phase 1 is you building infrastructure. Remember, you can't.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
You can't build houses in the middle of the town is dead. You need to resuscitate it.
See, I didn't read properly. That's why I missed phase 1. So it's just a reminder that we'll have to read very carefully the full scenario.
So, yeah. So guys, I think let's stop here. But I think what I'm trying to do with this scenario is when you study these concepts, relate them to a scenario. So what I want you now to do, I'm just reading Sierra's point there. Very difficult to anticipate town planning infrastructure as many issues arise due to an upgrade of the town. That's correct. The 30 million might not be enough. You might end up, this thing might end up costing 300 million or even more.
So then, the Boho, are you saying that funding can go to phase 1, which then affect the phase 2 to 4, which impacts on the quality of the building of the houses?
Yes. Because if you build, Erica, if you build houses where there are no roads, there's no water, there's no electricity, no one will go and stay there or live there. They're gonna say you're providing houses, we're buying these houses, but we don't have electricity. We'd rather travel this 300 kilometers a day and go back to our houses that have electricity.
Yeah.
So it's basically how the different constraints correlate with each other in the scenario.
And that they are there. Someone said, yeah, there's a direct correlation. Tabisa also said it that says quality comes with cost.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, the point I'm trying, so take this scenario, study the rest of the chapter with this scenario. And we're going to use this scenario throughout project management. See, do not study in isolation of the scenario. Whatever you read, make sure you understand it and you can relate it to a real life. And that's how you're going to get this model. So I'll post this scenario on my UNISA. Use it when you're studying. Next week, I want to know how it went. So you're gonna now dive into project management process areas or the project life cycle, depending on which module you use. So, for example, let's take feasibility. The first stage of a management process, project management process is initiation. What does initiation entail? The textbook says projects are initiated when a need or an objective is defined. In this scenario, have we defined the objective? Projects are initiated when a need or objective is defined. In this scenario, have we defined an objective?
Yes.
What is the objective?
The objective is to provide housing so that the people won't be burdened to travel, which will minimize accidents and lessen the absenteeism.
And what does it do to the company?
Makes it less productive.
So the objective is to eliminate this absenteeism. And once we do that, we increase the company's output, effectively increasing the company's profitability. Increase productivity, that's another way of putting it. So we've got our objectives, okay? Then it says there are a number of reasons why a project would be initiated. Go through the reasons, see if this scenario applies to these reasons or these reasons are applicable to the scenario. Then it says one of the many ways companies select the most worthwhile project is by considering a feasibility of the proposed projects and the risk and uncertainty relating to the project. So assuming that this is not the only project that the company is looking at, which is likely that this will not be the only project. Another project would be to buy them a company bus and transport them. Will that be cheaper? Will that eliminate absenteeism? But the question says the board has conducted a comprehensive analysis of the absenteeism, and they think that this plan will work. So look at the feasibility, type of feasibility. There's technical, social, ecological, and economic. So apply them on this scenario, and let's see what you come up with. Okay. Then there's a cost-benefit analysis. You can apply it to this scenario. Project initiation document. You can draft a project initiation document. You can draft a project plan with this scenario. Then there's execution and controlling. Then closing of the project. So just read this chapter, but whatever you're reading, apply it to this scenario. And just see if it helps you relate what you're reading to a real life situation. Yeah. So that's your homework for this week. Next week, we're going to try and discuss that and continue with the scenario into the project management techniques now. So the next chapter says, okay, you want to upgrade infrastructure, you want to build 100 houses in 2023. How do you make sure you get there? What tools are available to you to make sure that you get there? And that's the next chapter. Okay, any comments, questions?
Tebogo, just to be, in terms of the homework, are we going to take the scenario now and are we going to look at the stages or the phases within a project?
So
and then write it out based on the scenario.
No, don't write out anything. So what you guys do now is to study this chapter 9 in the textbook, but in the back of your mind, have this scenario in mind. See, when they say conduct a feasibility, just think how you would do it in this scenario. Then next week we discuss whether that was easier to study or not. Because what I'm trying to achieve here is whatever you're studying in this chapter, try and relate it to a real life scenario. And this scenario that I've given you is an example of a real life scenario.
Okay, I see Sierra says, I'm only seeing the one slide, not the question. So, but I think you just addressed it now. There is no questions. This is just to be used. It's just a scenario to which that we must keep in mind for every aspect of this chapter that we study. We must relate what we study back to the scenario. Just thinking it through, not answering anything, just thinking the theory through based on the scenario.
I think let's even make it more interesting. You are the management accountant of this company, and you've been told that you're going to be part of this project team. So go refresh your concepts of project management. This is what we're going to start doing from next week. We're going to start building houses for these employees. So you are management accountant. You're going to be the finance guru on the project team. Go refresh these concepts of project management. We're going to rely on you for answers. So that's effectively what I'm asking you to do. Okay. You guys understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
We hope we are. We'll see you next week.
Good luck, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Tebogo. Tabisa. Tabisa.